radio and television ITV, Lagos-based Redeem 93.7 Cool FM, Redeem 93.7 Cool FM, Star FM, and Ray Power 2 FM, which BBC sponsored. The federal government approved licenses for 16 radio stations in 2002. A new opposition party, ANPP, founded radio station, Freedom Radio, began operations in Kano in early 2004. As with television, independent radio stations lack national coverage and are mostly regionally based. In addition, the government of Nigeria sponsors the Voice of Nigeria, VON, which broadcasts news and feature stories about Nigeria within the country as well as outside Nigeria to neighboring West African nations and South Africa, where many Nigerians live. The government regulates the national television airwaves through the National Broadcasting Corporation, NBC, a nominally independent body. The federal government-owned National Television Authority, NTA network operates stations in the state capitals and has 2 autonomous stations in Lagos. In 1993, the NBC approved licenses for 14 independent broadcasters. By 1996, however, only 8 broadcasters were in operation, and the other 6 licenses were revoked. The NTA is the only national television broadcasting operation. Minaj and AIT Ray Power are popular independent television stations, but do not have national coverage. Galaxy TV is popular in Lagos and Ibadan, while Channels TV in Lagos is also a critically acclaimed independent station with a largely southwestern following. Commercially, NTA, AIT, Minaj, and Channels are available within Africa via satellite, while AIT and Minaj broadcasts may be received by US and British satellite subscribers. The print media sector is the most competitive and varied in Nigeria, with more than 20 national English language newspapers and a half-dozen weekly news magazines. State-owned newspapers continue to face financial problems and competition from the national dailies. Most have either gone under or are produced sporadically. Those that remain are publicity vehicles for the state government. Despite the large number of papers competing for newsstand space and readership, circulation figures for newspapers are low, less than 100,000 per paper and many less than 25,000, with combined circulation figures at roughly 750,000, a low figure for a country whose total population is estimated at 130 million. Most Nigerians live on less than $1 per day and cannot afford to spend half of that on a newspaper. In urban areas in particular, many people share newspapers, read them at newsstands without purchasing them, or discuss news stories on public transports. Now, regional media differences, the North and the South. In the North, radio is particularly important in reaching large audiences, and the Hausa language broadcasts are very popular. Both Nigerian and foreign stations, BBC, VOA, DW inclusive, have large listenership. A recent VOA survey indicates that the BBC leads in the northern radio market with 53.9%. Voice of America has 44.7% of the market, while DW has 36%. Note, many people listen to more than one station. End note. Because of the North's relative low literacy rates and lack of development, television, especially English language broadcasts, does not yet reach large audiences. But satellite broadcasts, not only BBC and CNN, but Arabic language stations from the Middle East, reach and influence the elite. Cable television subscriptions, bringing international stations to Nigerian viewers by satellite, have become more important in affluent communities, including in the North. In addition to CNN, BBC, MTV, and other commercial movie channels, Nigeria's cable providers bundle free Arabic channels, courtesy of Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Libya, Egypt, and the United Arab Emirates into the channel mix. ABG and MG Satellite Communications are northern Nigeria's main cable distributors for the Arabic channels. While radio reaches the widest audiences in the South, radio is viewed as an entertainment media as much as a news source, with FM and AM stations playing a wide variety of music forms. Higher education levels and more urbanized populations make television important for influencing southern elites and middle-class Nigerians. But television is largely non-existent for average citizens in villages. Many private television stations replay BBC or CNN news stories of international events. Newspapers are also more readily available in the Southwest, since most are printed there, and Northerners view most of the Southern papers as ethnically biased. Two Northern-focused internet sites, such as www.almizanfaithweb.com and www.gamg.com, have elite followings, meaning their influence reaches far beyond the few individuals who have direct access to the internet. These opinions are constantly reprinted in newspapers or made reference to in op-ed policy debates. The GAMG site has a cult following and has become very influential with Northern intellectuals, labor leaders, Northern Muslim Christian youth activists, NGO, and student groups. Issues discussed are far-ranging but substantially anti-US, including events in the Middle East, September 11, and the war against terror. The South has no similar geographic, ethnically focused websites. Users log on to allafrica.com. I used to love that, allafrica.com, by the way. Or the CNN and BBC website for international online news. That was me. I was a very ardent follower of the allafrica.com. That's how I got to know a lot about Africa, by the way. African news, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Ghana, Gambia, Lesotho, and all those places. That's how I got to know a lot. I won't lie. There maybe once in a while, BBC and CNN too. This was 20 years ago. Like the South, Northern newspapers are not the primary source of news for average Nigerians, but they do have some sway among intellectuals and political opinion leaders. Two more prominent papers are Hausa publications, Gaskiya and Almizan. Gaskiya ta fi kwabo, truth is better than money, is owned by a consortium of northern state governments. This sister newspaper to the New Nigerian is the oldest Hausa language newspaper in northern Nigeria. For 64 years, Gaskiya has reflected a pro-north, anti-west focus. Circulation is estimated at 50,000. Almizan is a radical Islamic Hausa weekly paper that strongly communicates anti-American views and advocates an Islamic state, sold for less than the other papers. It is published in Zaria on Friday, and it is characteristically sold to Friday mosque congregations. Total prints run in 12,000, but estimated readership is over 60,000. The newspaper is also available on the internet through www.faithweb.com. Almizan is influential with radical Muslim youth. Its founder and publisher is an Ahmadu Bello University-trained economist and student of the Iranian Revolution, Sheikh El-Zakzaki. Two English dailies, the New Nigerian and the Daily Trust, are also published in the North. The New Nigerian is managed by northern state governments and adheres to a pro-government editorial line, while the Independent Trust follows a strong anti-American, anti-West policy. Circulation for both papers is estimated to be similar to that of the Hausa papers. Similar to the North, many of the southern papers and broadcasting stations are owned by politicians and or Nigerian businessmen interested in establishing a platform by which to express their views. Many operate in the red and are supported by the owners, other business concerns. Some southern papers have established partnership and use materials from abroad. The Financial Times contributes about 1/3 of Business Day's material. The Sun, a tabloid paper featuring gossip, sport, and some news stories, mirrors the Sun of London. Local language and ethnically based papers are important in the South. The Champion is published in Lagos and is a barometer of Igbo opinion. The Yoruba language Alaroye is seen as the leading medium that reaches villages and the urban poor in the Southwest. Alaroye is also loosely affiliated with a Yoruba radio station to increase its impact. Both the paper and the radio station appeal to English-speaking elites in the Southwest. And the viewpoints run from neutral to pro-American. 13. Aside from traditional media, a broad category of other information sources also includes the influential teachings in the mosques, churches, Sunday schools, and Islamic schools. Some of the opinions in circulation come from visiting scholars and clerics and are a particular source of influence in an increasingly illiterate northern Nigeria. There is a sector of the sponsored pro-Islamic information sources with grassroots influence that is primarily religious and anti-US in character. Some of them, especially the pro-Islamic sponsored literature, pamphlets, and handbills, exploit the Hausa language to build a large readership. Internet chat groups are also influential with the elite and political class. In terms of direct third country influence, both Iran and Saudi Arabia are of note. Iran's efforts are formally aimed at spreading the Shia form of Islam in local Quranic schools and Muslim populations. Publications are part of an effort that includes placing teachers in Quranic schools and study groups in Iran. The target for Saudi Arabia's efforts are Islamic clerics, Islamic scholars, and the academic community. Like the Iranian sponsorship, the Saudi effort includes scholarships for study at King Abdulaziz University in Saudi Arabia. Christian organizations in the South are a large force for mobilizing crowds, but are not generally viewed as political actors. Parishes actively discourage political messages. A major source of Southern information, but not necessarily influence on the US, comes from relatives living in the States. With the majority of the students and immigrants to the US coming from the South, Southerners are well connected to the US. So who matters? And the MPP. The political class is influential, but the Nigerian president makes the critical decisions. Top political party leaders, religious leaders, labor leaders, traditional rulers, youth organizations, and academics have varying levels of influence in the government's decision-making. The military, although under civilian control, still retains significant influence, and Muslim clerics are the most influential in northern Nigeria. Journalists are important in informing the public and mobilizing public opinion, but have little direct influence as individuals. So, global health. Opinion leaders include government health workers, NGOs, and other donors, and normal US government influence channels tend to be effective. Nigeria recently witnessed, however, the strength of northern religious and political leaders in setting back the polio vaccination campaign through the spread of misinformation in a number of northern states. Anti-US Nigerian media supported these efforts. Our ability to directly influence such people is extremely limited. The polio issue underscored that a largely illiterate population is more influenced by local leadership than by mass media. While the mission suggested respected health officials from the other Islamic countries as possible interlocutors, there remains concern over the political neutrality of such people. On HIV/AIDS, there exists cooperation and willingness, blah, 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 blah. Anti-terrorism. Key personnel in this arena are the Nigerian security services, including military, police, and intelligence officials. Nigerian political culture does not and is unlikely to support international terrorism within Nigeria. Even other Muslim politicians, many of whom have a military background, would not see it in their interest to support a fundamentalist Islamic state, despite paying lip service to Sharia implementation in the north. For them, identification with Islam is a political means to gaining power, money, and the patronage that comes from political power. All three groups remain outside the influence of the independent media to a large degree. The military are keen to perceived as superior among African militaries and have a tradition of international cooperation or interaction with other militaries. The Nigerian police, who traditionally have worked to maintain the political status quo rather than protect Nigerian citizens, are also interested in cultivating a more professional image and increasingly looking outward for support. The intelligence services see cooperation with the US far outweighing non-cooperation on issues relating to terrorism. All groups are amenable to official channels of US government influence in this area. Democratic system, you can go on and on. I'll copy the link. It's almost finished, right? I'll copy the link. I'll just leave it there for you if you want to read it, if you want to read more. Okay? So it's mostly about influence, control, and all of that. And as for US, they simplified who controls who, and then for which of them is in the interest of America. Check the comments, you'll see the link. Copy it and read more. Okay. So when it comes to the religions, the religious leaders, the political leaders, the traditional leaders, and the type of information they keep giving everyone from the north to the south, and you can easily tell the social conditioning, right? This type of social conditioning that they have prepared us for over, for decades. And then what the internet, not just the internet, what the social media has done to break that chain of limitation, where today we have generation of Nigerians that are now challenging, not just in the south, okay, even in the north. In the north right now, we have a generation of young people that are challenging the clerics, that they are like challenging their emirs and their sultan, okay, on the old beliefs and all this stuff that they have been fed with or their own parents were fed with. Today, they are resisting. There's this level of resistance that is actually really going on in that contraption today, where the religious leaders are being called out, challenged. That never used to be the case. So over time, all these foreign interests, Iran, Iraq, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, in northern Nigeria, they have given scholarship to northerners. They have given scholarship to supposed teachers from northern Nigeria, so that they can come back and push their agenda. Look at that Zazaki. The Zazaki guy was like, okay, let me put it this way now. It's like Mayegun. You see what I'm doing right now? Doing my own teachings and all of that. If I get influenced, let's say by Britain, and they pump money into my hand and I started a movement, a kind of, I can call it, we call ourselves the Temple of Truth, right? So I can just formulate one idea that is going to say whether you are a Muslim, on Mayegun's diary, political is like a melting pot. It doesn't matter where you come from in Nigeria. You can find stories here if you are looking for truth about what is going on, right? And if you want to unlearn what you have been, what you have been programmed to believe, on Mayegun's diary, political. So if I get influenced, for example, by Britain, I can just cement this and say, you know what? We are going to call ourselves the Temple of Truth. And I'm going to call you the Templars. People who are not against Muslim, against Christian, we're just like what people with, open mind. Okay? And then the next thing, I can just start opening schools or funding this or funding that, left, right, and center. The money will be coming from Britain. That's exactly what El Zazaki was. El Zazaki was publishing, it was a, what do you call it? A publisher. No, is it called a publisher or, publisher. He had a newspaper where he was like writing about religious, this, religious, that, the Shia kind of Muslim. They are called the Shiites today. So when El Zazaki started, it was practically like, in a big way. Today, it's got more than 2-3 million followers. Beyond Zaria, that is, is sort of located, right? It's getting its funding from Iran. All this Iranian ideology of Islam, the Shia type of Islam, is what El Zazaki after gaining the interest of his, his followers who are reading his, all of you who they follow Mayegun. Oh, I love Mayegun. I love Mayegun so much. Oh, I this and that. And boom, I just kind of like bump into some huge amount of money. And then I started opening Temple of Truth Center, Lagos, where I can just fly down. All of you, not just listen to me on Mayegun's Diary Political, but I'm seated in this big hall, okay? And it's filled with thousands of people. Maybe like 2,000 or 3,000, like outside, everywhere filled up. And I'm seated here doing this talk I am doing right now, not on social media, though it is now internet-based, like everybody is now on social media now. But just imagine, like 20 years ago, I started small media outlets. All of you are reading, you are loving my articles, my opinions, and all of that stuff. Then boom, they just give me some money. You don't have to know that. You just think that, oh, I love his preaching. I love my ego so much. So you don't have to log in to see me on social media. Just come to my center in Lagos or come to my center in Ogun State, where I've built a big, massive center. Okay? And I'm talking about the bad in the society, how government is this and that, and all of that. We must stand together. We must stand up. We must fight for our rights. We must, and you don't know that it's the Britain or even it's America that's giving me all the millions of dollars to fund that. That's exactly what Sasaki was. And there are many, many like him there. What's that guy's name? Sheikh Osama bin Gumi, his father. You see, his father, Sheikh Osama bin Gumi's father, was also like that too. So that was how Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, UAE, United Arab Emirates, and so many like that. That's how they were pumping money into Nigeria, northern Nigeria, pushing their different kind of Islam there. And those who they were giving the money to, not only that, they were also giving scholarship to northerners to come to our university in Saudi Arabia, come to university in Iraq. When you look at some of these, they are cleric in northern Nigeria. Some of them Sheikh Osama bin Gumi was a lecturer in Saudi Arabia. They sent him away from Saudi because of his terrorist, his terrorism sort of approach to Islam. True story. They gave him, he was living in Saudi Arabia as a lecturer. This Sheikh Osama bin Gumi in Nigeria. But he said his idea is extremist ideology is anti-Islam. So they chased him away. They banned him from coming to Saudi Arabia. And he is a leader in Nigeria today. He's got his own mosque, like his father. Okay? Teaching them this type of Islam that he think people should follow. That's why he's telling you that the terrorists that are killing people in Nigeria, okay, the Nigerian government should never go after them the way they are going after them. So the point I'm making here is this. Majority of the things that we grew up knowing, and we thought they were just like in our interest. They were never in our own interest. We're lucky in southern part of Nigeria. But one thing is that those who are like Christians and all of them, right? They also got their own sponsorship from America, from Britain. Okay? To push pro-Western, pro-Western ideology. So you might look today and say, well, I mean, that was in our interest. No, it wasn't. That too was just to kind of socially condition us in such a way that if they tell you that Britain is exploiting you, Britain is stealing your resources, Britain, our America, they are supporting your criminal leaders in such a way, you are still going to defend them. Do you get that now? I mean, you are going to. I live in Britain right now. The reason why I will choose Britain and not choose Saudi Arabia, the reason why I will choose America and not choose Iraq is because I was raised to believe in pro-Western ideologies. So, majority of all of us became today were influenced by some of the information we are exposed to that some of us probably never even consciously or subconsciously even like ever thought of. The same way you are going to talk about America is still better. Britain is going to come, and the way they will say, oh yeah, choose between Iraq, Iran, America, and UK. Choose one. A Southerner will choose America, UK. No matter any prejudice he has against America or UK, he will still choose there. He won't choose Iraq. He won't choose Iran. Similarly, somebody in Kano, somebody in Kaduna, in Borno, whose orientation and exposure is to those places, will tell you that you don't know what you are talking about. They will prefer to go to Iran. They will prefer to go to Iraq. They will prefer to go to Saudi Arabia. So the bottom line is this. We are getting to the era where some of these things, they are